I guess, Moylesy, the best place to start is Croke Park on Saturday night, Dublin against Galway. It's remarkable how quickly Dublin have got up to speed and seem to be hitting the ground running already.
Yeah. You know, it's I suppose, Darren aside, you know, but the wheels coming off. The Monaghan game was a tricky assignment for them, so it was important that they got back up running, and they did it with aplomb. Galway were impressive enough the kind of first 15-20 minutes, you know, went toe to toe with them, got some great scores, but once Dublin kind of turned around second half, they really got it going, and they did that usual stuff where they just shift gear, and all of a sudden, you know, they were playing in third and now they're in fifth, and they just start to pull away from you, and in the blink of an eye you're 6 or 7 down and the game is done, you know, and that's exactly what they did. What really impressed me was their angles of running is something now that they're really trying to get. So, like, I mean, Mannion got a score in the second half where he just clipped it over with his left foot. But if you actually watch the score from, like, I mean, there's about 4 to 5 different options for the ball carrier, and it's all one touch. It's all, they're not even a touch. It's just all hand passing. So there's guys coming at different angles, preventing different options, and you can either take the one coming off, say, your left shoulder, you can take one coming off your right shoulder. If that doesn't work, you can step inside and take one coming down the middle of the field. So for a defence, you're covering all of these various options, and then invariably, after all the work the defence has done, there's someone who's kind of left free in an area and he gets the ball, and it's a very, very simple score. Another thing I noticed last night or Saturday with them was, and it kind of tunes in with Costello's performance. You know, he got 6 points. I think he got 5 from play, he got 1 from a mark, he kicked off his left and his right, but he kicked some absolutely massive scores, like some raker scores. Like, one thing, you know, we would have noticed over the last number of years is Dublin very rarely kick long range points. You know, most of it is worked into that area. Like, I think last year they kicked very, very little from outside the D, the scoring zone. And that was something that people were trying to, you know, kind of, you know, emulate. But actually on Saturday they kicked some really, really big long range points. So, you know, it's funny, I kind of watched a number of the games, and it's something that's kind of, it's a feature that I think is starting to happen.
Why do you think so?
Well, I think probably managers are deciding, well, look, you know, it's going to be difficult. Defences are probably going to crowd the D a lot more and push people out to the outsides of the D and into the, shall we say, the less ratio providing kind of areas to kick points. So they say we have to get better at it. We have to get better at long range shots, and we have to get the guys who have the ability to take those long range shots on the ball in those areas. And I'd say it's a matter of, well, can we do it? Can we get fellas up to the speed of it? Can we get fellas confident in doing it? And if you can do it in the winter conditions, you know, in the conditions of some of the pitches yesterday, you should be able to do it in the conditions of a nice dry day in, you know, June, July or August. But it's definitely a feature, you know, and it's a way to kind of, you know, counteract, obviously, defences being packed.
But they've been packed for years, haven't they? And like last year was particularly noticeable from Dublin's perspective, that they just didn't even try efforts from outside the D, as you say.
No,
so what's the change this year, I wonder?
I'd say it's just a matter of, look, you always have to, you know, innovate. You always have to bring something different into it. It could be a personnel type thing as well. Now, there's still an awful lot of hard running going on, and guys just coming on the loop and just coming around off the shoulder and popping the ball over the bar. That's still there, and it's still evident in games. But, you know, even if you switch to the Mayo game, like a lot of people would have seen yesterday, some really, really long range points kicked by Mayo as well, and indeed 1 or 2 by Tyrone. But, you know, long kicks that you would probably previously have said that a manager would be kind of saying, what are you taking that shot on for? You know, just inside the 50, you know, big boomers of scores, where, you know, people said, well, you probably would have rather to bring it in a bit. But I just think it is a feature, and I'd say it's just something that they're trying to say, well, if we need to go into this mode in a game, in a championship game, we know we actually have the people to do it, and we know we've actually proven we can do it, and we can do it again. And it's just another tactic.
Yeah, because like Niall Moynihan was with us in the studio a couple of months ago saying that he wanted to see a 2-point line made on the pitch to encourage that skill of long kicking, because as we've said there, Dublin just haven't been doing it, and they have been the thing that we've been holding up as the kind of the example of how to play Gaelic football at the moment. So it is interesting that this has started to happen, and maybe it is the fact that closer opportunities to goal just aren't turning into points. I wonder, it must be based on something, because it is a trend.
Yeah, I'd say there probably are. You know, I'm sure there's lots of statistics out there to show it. Bar Dublin's, ability to do it. Maybe other teams have found that they haven't got that ability to do it. But I suppose it's if you want to go to the basketball parlance, it's a situation where you're just shooting for 3-pointers a bit more. And if you have a guy obviously who can hit threes a lot more efficiently than them going inside, well then just give him the ball. And it was like, it is something that stood out for me. It really was, especially with Dublin and Mayo on the games I saw. That ability of that if we go in, we'll go out. If it starts to break down, if we start to feel a bit of heat coming in, we'll get the ball out to a shooter on the outside, who is the guy we want to get it, and then it's a long range point or a long range effort. And as I say, a wet day, cold, the ball doesn't travel as far. So come the summer, these guys should be able to kick and know their range is 40, 45 metres or whatever it is. Now, I have to say, some of the defending for Galway was pretty abject.
Yeah. Should they be worried?
I'd be worried from their intensity levels. There was plenty of bodies around, similar to Tyrone, but just a real lack of intensity, a real lack of putting pressure on the ball, a real lack of putting pressure on the kicker. Some of Costello's was he just stepped inside the guy, just dropped his shoulder and just popped it over the bar. No one coming to double up, no one coming to help out. I'd say they were gassed, because Dublin definitely looked on top of their game now. But Dublin always kind of looked like that in Croke Park. But Galway went into this defensive mode again, which just doesn't work in Croke Park. It just doesn't work. You can't. Dublin were so adept now at finding space and, as I say, angles of runs that you could have 15 guys in there controlling that D. And they still find space, and they flick the ball around so much, and they move the ball from left to right so much that they find holes in your defence. So you have to have something to offer up front and to give your defenders a break. And they just didn't have that.
Like, I just find it interesting that Kevin Walsh was saying after the game that they're not at the level they were at, like fitness-wise, or being ready to rock as they were for the league last year. And Dublin just seemed miles ahead of them fitness-wise, which doesn't make any sense, because there's no reason why Galway shouldn't take the league seriously again this year, because it is the very platform that gave them their most successful footballing season in 17 years last year.
Yeah, big time. Like, we spoke about this prior to the league, and we were saying, can Galway improve on this? Or will it be kind of, as you were saying, some people were saying Galway were a little bit, did they kind of overshoot last year?
Yeah.
So are they really the team? Like, if I was him, I'd be looking at Mayo now going, oh, this is a bit worrying for me.
Yeah. What did you see from Mayo yesterday?
People will give Mayo a lot of plaudits this morning. I thought Tyrone were very abject. Like, they were terrible. And probably not even from a physical point of view. I think, fitness-wise and everything else, Tyrone tried to keep up with Mayo. I'd say Tyrone are a good few weeks behind. Similar thing happened with Tyrone last year. If you remember the first few rounds of the league where they weren't scoring, they were trying some different things, trying to be a bit more expansive. They were trying to lessen the amount of players that they have in their defensive setup. But even just mentally, they were caught. Like, the second goal was absolutely terrible. It was from a free, and defenders seem to be all over the place. And young McDonough gets the ball and he just buries it, steps inside a man. So that's from a Tyrone point of view. Now, not taking anything away from Mayo. Mayo were absolutely top of the ground. Like, they could have won by 20 odd points. They could have had 4 goals. And it's funny. I saw a quote from Horan. He says, without boring you too much, we have trained very well. We've had 20 or so sessions, which is probably more like 40. And the guys have definitely added a bit of madness and enthusiasm to it. Now, that's a really interesting line.
Yeah.
Madness and enthusiasm. So that means the great thing that Horan will bring is, as we spoke about a few weeks ago, is this personal touch that he brings with players. He's a definite arm around the shoulder man. He's a detail man. Like he told me previously, like, that he would spend a lot of time on the 16 to 30 on the panel, more so than the 1 to 15. So he gets these fellas, really buying into the whole idea of the team. Which obviously only increases competition for places and, obviously raises the levels. And you can actually see that, like Higgins, Aidan O'Shea, even Andy Moran, Vaughan even yesterday were really, really good yesterday. You know, we're mad for action. Like, we're attacking when you didn't even think they were going to attack. Like, Higgins was coming off the shoulder. They were attacking in 3s and 4s yesterday, and they were just running Tyrone into the ground. Their option taken was very, very good. There was no stars. There was no, well, I have to do it. It was very much so that we're all going to share around the workload, and we're going to share around the scores. And there was one instance where actually Andy Moran, you know, he probably a situation where actually he got a hand pass, it was a bit over his head, and he ends up kicking it wide when they were on for a goal. But there was very, very little selfishness going on, and there was very little, well, he's the main man now. It was a real spread of stuff, and I just thought they were very powerful running from the half-back line. They mixed it well. Now, as again, you'd have to take a pinch of salt because Tyrone just weren't at it.
Yeah.
But, you know, for me, if I was Kevin Walsh and I'm looking across at my near neighbours, you're kind of saying to yourself, right, they're back, and they're back in a big way.
Yeah, like as I was saying earlier on, I just think it's so vital that the older heads that you mentioned there are on form, like Moran and Higgins, because ultimately, no matter how good any of these young fellas play this year, it'll still be their first season. It'll still be a breakthrough season for whoever that person may be, and maybe there won't be any of them that break through, so you're still going to have to rely on the lads if they are going to go all the way and challenge once again for an All-Ireland title. Like, it's interesting as well, you don't want to call him an old lad, but one of the more experienced fellas in the panel, and Aidan O'Shea, like, there was still question marks, there always will be question marks about Aidan O'Shea at 11. You were impressed with him though at centre forward yesterday.
Yeah, I was. I thought he changed it up. Like, if I was setting up for O'Shea, you're saying, okay, you know, he's going to get the ball in and around midfield, he's going to turn, he's going to try to run at you. So what we need to do is physically he'll just blow you out of the way. So what we need to do is we need to close the channel in on him. So we need to kind of nearly run with him and put him into an area where he doesn't want to be. In other words, that we're not giving him handy frees, we're not dragging out of him, we're not allowing him to lay off the ball easy. We're just kind of nearly frustrating him and causing him to get kind of a bit muddled. Yesterday he was really smart in how he distributed the ball. Like, I mean, he got his head up an awful lot. His first option wasn't just to bury his head and go. You know, he got the head up first time, he sprayed balls, he just laid little hand passes. He was nearly a decoy for an awful lot of stuff. So physically taking 2 or 3 guys and then just slipping the ball to runners, which was the way that he should be played, because he is so physical that most teams will try to double up on him there. You know, you'll say to a midfielder, listen, keep an eye on him and try and get back in to help the 6. Try and double up on him, and if he's able to take that and slip it off to a good mobile midfielder, which they have in O'Connor, well, then that causes issues for you. And
that half back line, almost like a number 9 in soccer dropping deep to be the hold up man. Like, is that the sort of role that we're talking here for Aidan O'Shea? Or
like, I mean, I think he can still deliver a pass, you know, and he can deliver a really good pass, but what has happened to him a lot is, due to his size and I think his physicality and the amount of punishment he takes when he runs with the ball, he was going in and out of games an awful lot. You know, people say, oh, sure, he goes missing for 5 or 10 minutes. But that was the nature of him as a player. I think if he's able to mix it up much more with actually nearly not standing in the pocket, but actually being, as I say, a foil for fellas, slipping hand passes to guys when he feels the tackle's coming in, or actually delivering passes, it'll actually make his running then, when he sees the opportunity, a lot more effective.
Quick word of the other 2 games. So Roscommon beat Monaghan 112 to 13 points, which was a pretty big shock in terms of Division 1, and then Kerry beat Cavan 16 points to 13. Your boy Sean O'Shea, who you had in your top 10 footballers of the year last summer, who I didn't have in the top 10 footballers of the year last summer.
Not to remind you of it. Not to remind you of the fact that okay, I'll be honest. You didn't really, you said that he's just not there yet.
Not there yet.
Okay, so is he there now?
I think he's there right now. 12 points yesterday. Unbelievable in the first 2 games. The thing I find often with free takers is they can sometimes be passengers in a team, that they're so good from dead balls that they almost have to start. Sean O'Shea is not that passenger, because from open play he's been outstanding for Kerry for the last 2 games, and they finally have somebody in the post Brian Sheahan era that can actually put a ball over the black spot consistently. There is no worry about that ball when it's in the air. Once it leaves the boot, you know it's going over.
Yeah, and like, I mean, horrible conditions.
Yeah.
You know, and he was kicking for fun. You know, kicking 45s. His 2 points, I think he got from play, one off his left, one off his right. He physically now looks like a big man. You know, he started to fill out his legs. You can start to see him. You know, he's done obviously a lot of work, as have a number of them, by the way.
Yes, I think the Donny Buckley effect is having a noticeable impact on the Kerry team already in terms of their toughness, their tackling, and the physicality, and a lot of them.
Yeah, because actually, I've noticed they're kind of doing the old Armagh trick of the team of the 2000s, whereby, you know, it's a tackle very much on the ball. But it's to strip the ball of you, you know. So they're going in very, very aggressively on the ball to strip, and then there's like, I mean, obviously players to come in and pick up the pieces. That's going to be a great game next weekend against Dublin, because, you know, Gavin definitely won't want Kerry getting any kind of, now we say this a lot, but he definitely won't want them getting any kind of a real fill up in confidence, whereas Keane will absolutely love if he can get that. Like that will be one of his big desires. He obviously doesn't want to get a thanking, but he can still fall back. He can still fall back on a little bit of, well, you know, we're blooding the players, and so Gavin is in not a dangerous position, but he has a lot more to lose than I think Keane has.
Yeah.
And you know, I think it's a great game for them. It's nearly a la to the England-Ireland thing, where I think if they bring a bit of madness and a bit of bullying to it and physically really see, because that'll be the marker, can they really stand up to them physically? Can they get into the trenches with Dublin, let their skill and stuff come out, but actually bring them down there and say, right, this is our patch, and we're not going to make it easy.
Absolutely, and I think you're bang on there about the physicality. I think it's a huge game next Saturday. David Moran was back from his honeymoon yesterday. I'm telling you, if I've never seen a man come back from a honeymoon in such good shape. Like, he clearly must have been at the gym every morning. I don't know how the wife might have felt about that, because he came back flying off the bench yesterday. Tommy Walsh came off the bench yesterday, was extremely encouraging in his performance. And this isn't my take at all. Before we went on air last week down in Killarney, Mike Work was telling me about his other club mates. So they're two Rahleys lads, and then a third Kearns Rahleys lad, Gavin O'Brien, 6'3", 4'5", potentially, nice. Wing forward, massive mobility, kind of like Jacob Stockdale, the way he can move. He came on with a brief glimpse yesterday and was brilliant. So expect Kerry to go big in the middle of the park, go big close to goal, and basically tackle Dublin with everything that they've got physically, like kind of like Jack Barry did to Brian Fenton a couple of years ago, except they're doing it to multiple players all over the pitch. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if things get a little bit heated in Tralee on Saturday night, but those three Kearns O'Reilly's lads, very, very encouraging signs from a Kerry perspective in terms of being bigger and not getting bullied this year, so I don't think that's going to happen. But before we wrap up, we just want to touch on Division 2. So a couple of results, like obviously that terrible pitch witnessed Kildare 110, Cork 10 points yesterday. You'd Armagh 113, Clare 210, Tip 2-5, Fermanagh 2-5, and then your own county, Meath, went down to Donegal on a 113 to 14 point scoreline. You've got a hotline to that game yesterday. What went on there? Yeah, just Meath were in the driving seat for a long period of it. Missed a couple of probably easy enough chances first half and early second half. Probably should have been out of sight. Played really well, you know, against the Donegal side that was probably inexperienced, you know, missing a lot of players, so you would have expected me. It was a great opportunity for me to get 2 points off a team that would be, you know, everyone's tip to obviously get promotion. Very harrowing week, obviously, for Donegal with everything that went on. So, yes, there was a lot of emotion going on, but you know, Meath took it. Meath were running well. James McEntee had a fine game. Young Campion had a fine game. But just defensive blunder at a vital time. What happened? Just a big high ball in. Owen Bon Gallagher puts the ball into McFadden, who had kind of went into full forward. He was well tracked by Menton. The ball bounces, the goalkeeper comes out, and it just kind of, as he's about to pick it up, one of the Donegal lads just gets a flick on it between his legs. Like just you know, to be fair to Colgan, he's a good goalkeeper, and it was just one of those things. But it seemed to kind of really deflate Meath. Straight away Donegal get another score. All of a sudden you go from 4 up. You're now level, and they get 1 or 2 more scores. Now, Meath had chances, but I think it was just the shock of it. From being in a very, very commanding position where you're, you know, strolling, to all of a sudden you're like, oh. Now, it's a lesson for them, and it's a big lesson for them. And, you know, I think Andy McEntee and the boys can obviously use it to really hone in on that. It cannot happen again. This type of stuff cannot happen again. And game management has to be a little bit better, because they've Armagh next week, and Armagh
by all intents and purposes, should have won that game. I think they felt that they were a bit robbed against Clare. Supposedly there was a goal in the last few minutes that didn't cross the line. It seemed to be a bit of a tetchy affair. So that's going to be a big game next week. And things are going to be tight in that division. Things are going to be very tight in that division. You know,
was a goal from a sideline kick from David Tuberty yesterday.
Yeah.
To draw the game for Clare.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Just a quick one on Donegal, because they're likely to go under the radar over the next couple of weeks. We probably won't chat about them too much. Like I've got big hopes for this Donegal team at the moment, mainly because of the promise they showed in the league last year, and then after Paddy McBrearty got injured, their whole season just went down the toilet basically, and then who knows what might have happened in the Super 8s had he been fit basically. And I don't want to say it was a terrible season because they were still in the Super 8s. Like, what's your sense? Are they still trending in the right direction, or is Division 2 something that's just going to stall their progress?
Yeah, I would have been very, very positive on them last year as well. I thought they were really coming. You know, like, I mean, I thought the likes of Owen Bon Gallagher was a massive addition to them. I think they'll be okay. I think it's going to be a tricky situation for Bonner because of obviously the Guidor players and stuff like that. It is hard. It's very, very, like, I mean, you know, you heard him saying, listen, it has to be finished in the calendar season, and he's completely right, because there is a hangover from it, you know, and you don't get your players back, and then you try to integrate them in. You're integrating them in a very short space of time, so it is difficult for them. The injuries has not helped. How Murphy comes back and how McBrearty potentially comes back is obviously going to be two big factors. But at the same time, you know, from what I saw from Tyrone yesterday, you're kind of saying, right, okay, well, they will get it right, but at the moment they're trending downwards. You know, Cavan are probably samey as last year. You know, okay, first half against Kerry, but then Kerry kicked on second half. So, you know, you've got Armagh, who are probably trending upwards a bit, and then you're into Derry and Down, and okay, you know, Down are going okay, but it's. I wouldn't be worried too much for them. That was a good win for them yesterday, to be honest. Like, I mean, it was fortuitous, but it was still a good win, and I think it was a win that they needed to you know, gain promotion if they are going to get it. Yeah,
definitely. Like, they're missing Michael Murphy and Paddy McBrearty.
Correct.
And Division 2 is no cakewalk because everybody is focused on the league. They're so gung-ho to get into Division 1 as well. So it's a pretty good start to their league campaign.